Greetings, YouTube. This is Fragments of Memory, one more again. And today I was looking at some videos on YouTube, and one of them was a recording from Larry King Live. And it was Laura Ingr, the conservative commentator, with Marc Lamont Hill. Both are Fox News contributors. In spite of Marc Lamont Hill being a Fox News contributor, I really like his views. He's an African-American professor at Temple University, I believe. Really good, intelligent, articulate, insightful brother, and he has a lot of good things to say. Well, Laura Ingr was talking about her book, The Obama Diaries, and they were going back and forth on that. And then this issue came up, this issue came up about race in America. Well, it was about how Obama identified himself as African American. Then they cut to a clip from The View. And Barbara Walters asked Obama, why do you call yourself African American even though you have a white mother? Why don't you just call yourself biracial? Well, Barack Obama said, living in America, people treat me as though I'm African American. Now, this is also very interesting because I have a few friends that are biracial, and they've been considered black, even though one of my friends in particular, she has a white mother, and her parents told her that she is going to be seen as a black person. Now, Laura Ingr said, Obama's supposed to be the post-racial candidate. Why didn't he just identify himself as being biracial? And then Marc Lamont Hill intelligently pointed out that this country had a history of excluding people of color, especially blacks, by coming up with the one-drop rule. And I'm going to show you that there is very much historical fact in this. As a matter of fact, I have this really good book. It's called Sex and Race by J.A. Rogers. Hopefully you can see it, Sex and Race. And it just talks about people in history that have had the Negro strain in them. I'm going to hold the book up one more time. Sex and Race by J.A. Rogers, Volume 1. And in it, interestingly enough, the creation of this monster was the easiest thing in the world, talking about racism. Peoples are governed not by realities, but by myths. And of all the myths, that of racial superiority is the sweetest. Any number of otherwise intelligent people, some of them of the highest scientific pretensions, can be found who believe that their own particular race is elevated far beyond the rest of humanity and is actually enclosed in some airtight compartment that keeps it free from contamination. Any number of writers can be found, like William Benjamin Smith, who will declare that race mixing does not affect the purity of the white race, since those with the slightest degree of Negro strain are classed as Negroes. Now, if you just look at that book, Sex and Race, J.A. Rogers talked about that and how he said that this William Benjamin Smith character said that if any person had any amount of the Negro strain, one drop of the Negro strain in him, he was considered a Negro. This is where we get things like quadroons and octoroons and that whole thing going on. So Laura Ingr laughed it off, but Marc Lamont Hill had a very good point that even if, let's say right now, even Tiger Woods went through that. His mother is a woman from Thailand, but yet we still want to call him black because his father was black. And that's always been the case. But I just want to get into that whole thing of, number one, we do play the whole one drop rule. If you got any black in you, you all the way black. Well, what about my mother who gave birth to me who was of a different race? The very womb I sat in wasn't even a black woman's womb. It was somebody else's womb. A Thai woman or a white woman or a Japanese woman or a Hispanic woman. But simply because the black is seen as the so-called dominant strain, that the black just took it all over. Well, I would also postulate that race is a very complicated subject anyway. And I also want to point out that Laura Ingr, while laughing or brushing the comment off, it shows that not only is she ignorant of history, she's also blinded by her white privilege. Now, most white people think that to be racist means I have to be a Ku Klux Klan member or I have to be some sort of belong to a white supremacist group. But that's not necessarily true. I remember growing up and my mother used to tell me, you have one strike against you. You're black. Well, I used to think, why would she tell me that? You know, my mother never raised me to be quote unquote race conscious or anything like that. But she said this to me when I was about 12 or 13. And then as I got older, I realized that I am seen differently simply on my blackness. My intelligence is judged. My financial situation is judged simply on how I appear. So I go back to that to say that there was a really good article written by a white lady by the name of Peggy McIntosh, and she talks in depth about how her white privilege benefited her. She talked about how she could find toys that looked like her. She talked about how, for example, a little girl wants to get a Barbie doll. The Barbie doll is going to look like her. If a little boy wanted to get an action figure of a favorite action hero, superhero, it's going to look like a white person. Heck, even in the institution of religion. Even though we know Jesus Christ was Jewish, every church I've been to, black, white, or otherwise, always has a picture of a white, blonde hair, and blue-eyed Jesus. So in our minds, we assume that Jesus is white, and if he's supposedly the Son of God, then God must by default be white. As a matter of fact, if you go to the Sistine Chapel in Rome, God is even white. So wow, that really can mess with you psychologically. And white privilege plays into all of that. When we talk about the Americans that built this country, they only seem to show the white people. Even the founding fathers were white. So where does that leave anybody else who is not white? So here goes the white privilege, where there are certain benefits, there are certain blessings that come with being white. And that dominant group does not have to see what the other group goes through, where your credit is judged based on your ethnicity, your financial situation, your educational level. And yes, I agree that white people struggle. And yes, I agree that white people have money problems and other ills. But it seems that as a person that is white and privileged, you can overlook what the minority group is going through, And Laura Ingr kind of just laughed it off, which proves and shows her white privilege. Now, I'm not attacking white people. I don't think white people are intrinsically bad or even internally satanic. I just point out that they come with certain benefits simply being the dominant group and the dominant culture in this country. Now, we as blacks get told racism is over. It's just something that's in your mind. Well, no, racism is very much alive. It's not as obvious as, hey, I'm going to burn a cross on your lawn, or hey, I'm going to string you up on a tree or something like that. No, it's subtle. It's subtle. Like I've had white people say, "You sound so articulate." Like, what is that supposed to mean? Am I not supposed to be articulate? I am someone that at least has a high school diploma. I have taken some college courses. I believe that I should get some education. I do read a lot. So now, simply because I sound articulate, that's supposed to be a compliment. I don't know. Or white people, I think white people are more obsessed with ethnicity and race than blacks are. And white people are quick to kind of kowtow to, or not necessarily kowtow, but white people are quick to say, oh, don't give me that race stuff anymore. Don't play that black card. And oftentimes, we're no longer really equal anymore. I no longer can look at you as a man or as a woman. Now I got to look at you as a black man or a black woman or a white man or a white woman. And I find it disingenuous when commentators like Laura Ingr like to say that it's the black people's fault. And we especially have that problem here in St. Louis, here in the Midwest, here in the STL, where you have people that have that attitude. Well, white people like to claim reverse racism. I mean, bigotry is bigotry no matter who does it. But I find that because they're in the dominant group, because the dominant group is the white people in St. Louis especially, there is a lot of prejudice and a lot of animosity, I believe, on the white side of the racial spectrum in St. Louis. And Laura Ingr's mere dismissal, her laughing off of Dr. Marc Lamont Hill's comment, made me just say, oh, she's another privileged individual. Well, I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to continue because my time is running out. So please stick with me for part 2 of my armchair philosophy rant. Thank you.